A man who dares to waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life. I love fools' experiments. I am always making them. The very essence of instinct is that it's followed independently of reason. A moral being is one who's capable of reflecting on his past actions and their motives, of approving of some and disapproving of others. The highest possible stage in moral culture is when we recognize that we ought to control our thoughts. It is a cursed evil to any man to become as absorbed in any subject as I am in mine. What a book a devil's chaplain might write on the clumsy, wasteful, blundering, low, and horribly cruel work of nature. What a book a devil's chaplain might write on the clumsy, wasteful, blundering, low, and horribly cruel work of nature. Animals, whom we have made our slaves, we do not like to consider our equal. A man's friendships are one of the best measures of his worth. Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. It is those who know little and not those who know much who so positively assert that this or that problem will never be solved by science. If the misery of the poor be caused not by the laws of nature, but by our institutions, great is our sin. We must, however, acknowledge, as it seems to me, that man, with all his noble qualities, still bears in his bodily frame the indelible stamp of his lowly origin. On the ordinary view of each species having been independently created, we gain no scientific explanation. Man is descended from a hairy-tailed quadruped, probably arboreal in its habits. I have steadily endeavored to keep my mind free so as to give up any hypothesis, however much beloved, and I cannot resist forming one on every subject as soon as facts are shown to be opposed to it. We can allow satellites, planets, suns, universe, nay, whole systems of universes to be governed by laws, but the smallest insect we wish to be created at once by special act. False facts are highly injurious to the progress of science, for they often endure long, but false views, if supported by some evidence, do little harm, for everyone takes a salutary pleasure in proving their falseness. The mystery of the beginning of all things is insoluble by us, and I for one must be content to remain an agnostic. An American monkey, after getting drunk on brandy, would never touch it again, and thus is much wiser than most men. At some future period, not very distant as measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace the savage races throughout the world. I cannot persuade myself that a beneficent and omnipotent God would have designedly created parasitic wasps with the express intention of their feeding within the living bodies of caterpillars. A scientific man ought to have no wishes, no affections, a mere heart of stone. I have called this principle by which each slight variation, if useful, is preserved, by the term of natural selection. I have tried lately to read Shakespeare, and found it so intolerably dull that it nauseated me. I am turned into a sort of machine for observing facts and grinding out conclusions. Man tends to increase at a greater rate than his means of subsistence. Man tends to increase at a greater rate than his means of subsistence. How paramount the future to the present. When one is surrounded by children, my mind seems to have become a kind of machine for grinding general laws out of large collections of facts. To kill an error is as good a service as, and sometimes even better than, the establishing of a new truth or fact.